Head over to miniaturemarket.com. They have thousands of board games at discounted prices like Tang Garden. Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here. Today we're going to be building a beautiful garden. We're going to be adding water features and greenery and rocks and all sorts of decorations and scenery to this beautiful garden. Today we're going to be taking a look at Tang Garden from Thundergriff Games. This is a tile laying game with a little bit more going on. Beautiful production. Let me show you how it's played. I'll see you on the other side. Tang Garden is a tile laying game where often you're going to be laying tiles, but you're also going to be placing decorations like bridges and trees and pavilions and placing characters in these to look in certain spots to see awesome scenery to get points in the end. Now everyone starts with a player board and you'll have cubes of different types. We have water, greenery, and rock. And those are matched with the rock and the water and the greenery. And as you place tiles, you're going to be moving up these different tracks. And as you get to different tracks, you're going to be able to unlock other characters, which will give you some points and some strategy for the end game. Now here's the board set up. There's one main tile, it's double-sided, that starts in the middle. Turns are very simple. You'll see that there's 4 stacks of tiles, each of them of different types. Like that's for water, this is for land, things like that. Now on your turn, you're either taking one of the face-up tiles and placing it, or you're gonna grab some decoration cards and add some decorations to the board. Let's say it's our turn, the first player went here, and we wanna take this tile and we wanna place it. Like most tile laying games, you have to match things up. For example, I can't place this here because this is greenery and this is water. But I could place the greenery like this, or I could place the greenery like this. It doesn't matter either way. Now, if I place it like this, because I've actually matched green with green, I will be able to go up 1 on this green track. But because if you look at this whole greenery is entirely enclosed now, because I close it, I would go up another spot on that green track. However, we started with the student that actually stepped us up 1 spot on green. And then every time we move forward, 1 or more on the same turn, we get a coin. So in this case, we went ahead 1 because we matched green, and we went ahead another 1 because we closed green, and because we moved at least 1, we'll get a coin. A coin is worth a point at the end of the game. This is cool. This has some end game scoring that I'll go over later, but we've moved this all the way up here. If we're able to move both the blue and the yellow to here, we'll be able to get another character, which will give us more abilities and more coins and things like that. Now when it's the next player's turn, you'll see there's 1, 2 tiles that you can't see, you cannot draw from those, and 2 that are face up. Now instead of drawing a tile, you can place a decoration. Now to place a decoration, you actually get 2 cards by default, and then 1 more for each of those tiles that were sort of face down. In this case, we had 2 of those. So in this case, because as there's less and less choices to draw tiles from, you're more and more apt to go for decorations because you'll have more and more choices, because from these 4, you get to place 1 of them. For example, if you place this pavilion, you'll be able to place this humongous, beautiful pavilion on the board. If you have, and you'll keep this card, if you have the most of them at the end of the game, you get 12 coins, essentially 12 points. If you have the second most, you'll get 6. Or maybe you want to place this huge peach tree. And this is like a big tree that you'll place out on the board. And depending on how many different trees you get over the course of the game, set collection, you'll get a certain amount of coin. Sometimes you'll just get a bridge and it will just be worth 2 points. You'll place this out on the board. And some of the pieces, like this in the pavilion, have this little circle. And this means that later on during the game, the characters that we're talking about, we'll talk about this in just a minute, we'll be able to go there and be placed in those certain things. Now birds, this is like, hey, if you get a bird by itself, it's 0 points. But if you get a bird and you get a fish, so there's some cards that have fishes, those set collections will get you 6 points. So instead of placing a tile, you'll take one of these cards, you'll place it in front of you, and you'll place the certain decoration down there. And where you can place it is based here. So this tells me I can place it in a diamond that is one of the land pieces like this. So I can place it just like this, and I can spin it in any way. And this is important because if you place a character in here, he's only going to be able to see out in one direction. And we'll talk about this later in detail, but what they're going to be looking at are different tiles that are placed here. The game starts with some of these, but over the course of the game, more of these scenic tiles are going to come. They're going to have certain icons that specific character is going to want to see for points at the end of the game. Now, either when there's only 1 tile left that you can see face up, or someone places a decoration, then the next player is going to have the full amount of choices, 4 different choices. That's sort of how the flow of the game works. Now there's other types of edges for the tiles. These are footpaths, the little rocks there. Every time you match one of those, you'll get a coin, which again essentially is a point at the end of the game. Now let's talk about influencing characters. Anytime you move a cube so that all of them have at least gotten to the next character like this, you get to influence a character. Now, they can either influence one of the two characters that are available, or they can get one off the deck, and each one of these comes with a miniature, and you have the matching base colors there, and each of these will do different things to get you sort of end game bonus points, or coins, which are essentially points. Now, the lady has just end game things. She says if she's facing the sun or the moon, she'll get 6 points for either of those, or 12 points for both. Because you remember those tiles I was talking about, those scene tiles earlier, they'll go on the edge of the board. If she's facing the moon, which has the icon here, which matches the icon here. And one of my nitpicks of the game is I wish these icons on the cards and these icons here were a little bit bigger because they're really hard to see. Now granted, you can see a moon's here, but it's not as obvious as maybe looking for a color in a circle. Now this is the sun here. Again, obviously see a sun, but it's like sun, sun. You kind of have to match those together. If you're looking for the icons, which is a little bit quicker, I think, it's a little hard because they're a little small there. But she'll get you 6 points if she's facing those, either of those. Now, if you influence that character like the lady, you'd put the card in front of you and you take the character, but then you get to place one of your two characters at this point, the one that you started with or the one you just got. So in this case, you can only place them on these little circles here, but you must face them in a certain direction. So let's say we face her in this direction. Now, why would we want to do that? Well, later on, someone's going to place some of these tiles on here, and you're going to be able to place certain scenic tiles out on the board. For example, if someone places a tile here, not only will they get the coin for the footpath, but because it covered this, they're going to be able to place a small scenic tile in any of the small scenic tile spots. And when picking, you can pick the one that's sort of out here or the one off the top. So if you pick one of these, it kind of reveals a new one for the next player. And the small ones go in any open spot in the front of any of the spots here, so you're sort of creating a scene there. Now later on, let's say someone places here. Now because they have this one, this is the large scenery tile, and so they'll get to pick one of those. And just like when you're taking the small ones, you can take the first one or the one off the top. I'm going to select this one because it has the sun, which is the way that that character is facing, and then the next player will get to choose from these two. And these larger ones will go just like that. Now, as you build these, this is important because we place this character facing in this direction. She will see all 5 scenic tiles, the 3 small ones and the 2 larger ones, if there are a total of 5 of them there at the end of the game. And because she wanted to see the sun, she's going to get 6 points for that. And if she also ends up seeing the moon, she'll get another 6. So there's a lot of sort of earlier planning as to where you want to point, and then trying to get the tiles that match that, that they get to see. Now, some of the characters have an ability, a skill, and the end game scoring. Like this one says, anytime somebody takes one of these scenery tokens, which we just showed you from the board, you'll get a coin. So that's kind of cool. But she'll also get 2 points, 2 coins for every waterfall icon on the active scene that she can see. So some of them have some abilities as well as end game scoring. Now, once per turn, each player can use one of these special abilities. For this one, when you place a tile, you can actually place 2 of them. Of course, it has to be, pretty much done there. And then you'd flip it over. This one is the character itself. You can move it on the board and or spin it to this place you want it to be, so you might use that a little bit later in the game. This one is when you place a decoration, you can place 2, and this one, when you're influencing a character, you can go through the deck and get the one you want, or if you're placing a scenery tile, you can take the one you want from the deck and place it where you want. So these are pretty powerful. Plus, if you have 3 of the same type of scenery tiles, like the tokens like this, you can turn them in once to reflip one of these abilities up just like that. Now the game will end when one of these stacks gets depleted, or 3 or less of these tokens are on the board, and then players will get final scoring, which a lot of it is looking at your characters. Like this one would get me 1 point for every green it's on and everything that it sees. Plus, any decorations that it sees, like trees and such like that, you'll get a point for every one of those as well. So this would get another point for that. So you'll add up points for all your characters, giving yourself coins, and you'll look at all of your total coins, and whoever has the most is the winner. All right, well, there's Tang Garden. Beautiful production. I mean, all the punch pieces here that come out are thick. I mean, when I was punching this out, I was like, wow, I couldn't believe how good the production was on this game. Everything's really chunky and thick. It just looks really beautiful. And this game has awesome table presence. You're gonna be playing this game and people are gonna be walking by and they can't help but stop and go, what are you playing? This just looks so interesting. It does look awesome on the table and it really adds to the experience. Now the game has pretty simple turns. It's pretty streamlined. I mean, you're either taking a tile and placing it, or you're going to try to draw some some decoration tiles and taking one of those. But there's a lot of depth in what you do. When do you take the tiles? the less, you know, the less tiles that are available to you, the better the other option is of gathering the different, you know, the decorations. So there's like a push and pull. It's like, as my choices get less and less for tiling, it gets better and better to the other ones, but then it sort of resets the tile. And so there's lots of depth as what to do. What am I trying to go up on? What does my starting character's ability do? You know, how am I going to build towards this? What am I trying to build? How do I move things up evenly in order to get those characters? So there's definitely a good amount of depth for how simple the game is. I mean, because of all those decisions, because of all the different things going on with the characters and the decorations and scenery tiles, this is sort of like tile laying on steroids. It's still a pretty straightforward game. I wouldn't call it a gateway game. I'd call this a good next step game because there's more going on than you'd want to introduce someone that's not used to playing hobby board games. But it's definitely more than just, say, Carcassonne for sure. I like that you're trying to move up those different tracks of the water, the greenery and sort of the rocks there, but you try to do it evenly because as you get to those different spots, you're going to be getting characters, sometimes more coins, which essentially are points. And it creates an interesting thing because players are always sort of going after different things, which means the garden is getting made up in a pretty even way, which makes it good as for the different types of, you know, decorations and scenery tiles and characters, and they all sort of work together because players are moving up in different tracks. It's all sort of hooked together, and I like that aspect. The placing of the characters is always really fun because you're not only looking at what character you started with or what ones you have and how do you build towards that, but you're also looking at what characters are available. And as you're placing things and placing scene tiles and things like that, you're looking at what characters are available now and you're going, oh, okay, well, if I place this here, this is going to be good for this character. But maybe I won't do that because I'm looking around and someone else is a lot closer to getting the next character than me. So maybe I won't set this up because they might be the first one to get it. So it had a little bit of a game of chicken there, which is kind of fun. But you also have those special abilities from the lantern abilities. And one of those is to go down through the deck and get the character you want. So once you know the game well, this adds good things for people that play a game often and many times, is you can sort of build scenes knowing what cards are in that deck. And so as you play the game more, you get to know what those are. You're like, oh, you know what? I'm going to put this scene tile here. I'm going to put this one here. And then later on, I'm going to go get that card that looks at both of those things and gets me a lot of points. And that's kind of cool too. You can have some further planning and you're not always having to rely on the luck of the draw of the characters each game. So I think that's kind of cool. You're always talking, you know, trying to figure out, how do I balance my tiles for decorations? Which strategy am I going to go for? Am I going to go for strategies of trying to move way up on these tiles, trying to get a bunch of coins with the rock pass, or am I going to go with the decorations? You can go in different strategies and fight for the win in any of those. I like that the decoration cards and such have sort of different types of set collection, where it's like, oh, if you have the most of these, you get 12 coins. If you have the second most, you get 6. But if you get, and some other ones are like, hey, if you have this and this, you'll get this amount of coins. So you're trying to collect different things, or how many different types of trees. So there's different types of set collections depending on that. So overall, I enjoyed the game. It was beautiful, it was fun, great next step game. On the negative side of things, the icons really should be bigger. It's really hard to see what those are. There's a lot of different ones. Now, a lot of those icons on the scenery tiles are sort of circled with colors, and those colors have to do with the colors of the characters, which makes sense. It's like, oh yeah, these ones are green. You can look really quickly and go, okay, it's the green character. But also, some of the colors can be pretty close on some of the characters. And so having those icons really small and hard to see was a bit of a problem. And having some of the colors, and I know that with as many characters, it's probably hard to get very different colors on all of them. But between the colors being a little close on some and the icons being smaller, it does produce a problem. You know, once you're placing it, you might need to pass it around or tell everybody what it is, but really you need to kind of look at it closely. And I know they're trying to make the tiles look as beautiful as possible, which they do. They don't want to put big icons on those, but they, you know, it is problematic. Now, once you've played the game a lot, you'll probably know what's on what. But that's a negative nitpick here, is that the gameplay would have been better if it was more easily seen what those icons were and how I matched those things up. But that's about it. Other than that, the game is fantastic. If you like tiling and you want something with a little bit more of a bite than, say, a Carcassonne, you want something that's going to stand out on the table, Tang Garden is definitely it. This has been the Game Boy Geek, breaking down barriers, growing relationships through board games by helping you find the next one you'll love. Did you miss the Game Topper 2.0 Kickstarter? Have no fear, it's not too late to get in on the ultimate gaming accessory. Convert your table into a high-quality gaming table with a fully portable Game Topper system and take advantage of some of the best 3mm premium gaming mats in the industry. New styles, new sizes, and new accessories can be yours. Upgrade every game you play by late backing now at GameToppersLLC.com.